Good morning. This morning, the National Hurricane Center is reporting that Hurricane Irma remains a dangerous and life-threatening Category 5 storm with winds of 185 miles per hour. The storm is massive, and the storm surge is predicted will go for miles. This is a massive storm. In some instances, it could cover homes and go very far inland. Right now, Irma is traveling at about 16 miles per hour. The track now has a forecast to directly impact the Florida Keys on Sunday as a devastating major hurricane. The Florida Keys should be prepared to start feeling the effects of the storm as early as Saturday. Storm surge and extreme winds are the biggest concern right now. The storm is bigger, faster, and stronger than Hurricane Andrew. We are being very aggressive in our preparation for this storm, and every Floridian should take this seriously and be aggressive to protect their family. It is important not to focus on the exact path of the storm. A storm of this size could have effects statewide, and everyone must be prepared. I know it shifted east in the latest forecast, but we all have to understand that this is serious and we cannot take chances. Regarding evacuations, right now there is mandatory evacuation order in effect for all visitors in the Florida Keys. Tonight this order will go into effect for all residents. If you're told to evacuate, get out quickly. We can expect additional evacuations as the storm continues to come near our state. Everyone must listen to their local officials. Listen to your local officials on the evacuations. Individuals with special needs will be evacuated from Miami beginning this morning. Miami-Dade County officials are also advising residents living in low-lying areas to start evacuating today. I cannot stress this enough. Do not ignore evacuation orders. Remember, we can rebuild your home, but we cannot rebuild your life. Real-time traffic information and evacuation routes is available at www.fl511.com. www.fl511.com. At my direction, all tolls have been waived across Florida roadways. This should help families evacuate quickly and safely. We are preparing for Irma to directly impact our state, and while it's still too early to tell exactly where the storm will hit, it is incredibly important that all Floridians keep a close eye on this incredibly dangerous storm. Do not sit and wait for this storm to come. It is extremely dangerous and deadly and will cause devastation. Get prepared right now. Regarding the Florida National Guard, yesterday I activated 100 members of the Florida Air and Army National Guard to support with planning, logistics, and operations in preparation for potential impacts from Hurricane Irma. These 100 members are stationed across the state right now. And air assets from the North Carolina National Guard are beginning hospital evacuations in the Florida Keys this afternoon. Today, I'm activating another 900 Guard members for a total of 1,000 by the end of the day to respond and prepare for Hurricane Irma. On Friday, all 6,000 remaining available National Guard members will be reporting for duty. I stand ready to activate additional Guard members throughout the week as needed. In addition, 13 helicopters and more than 1,000 tactical high water vehicles are on standby. The Florida National Guard is coordinating with other states, and the National Guard Bureau is to ensure approximately 30,000 troops, 4,000 trucks, 100 helicopters, and air evacuation crews are ready to support our state. Regarding fish and wildlife, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission is preparing search and rescue teams for potential deployment. Regarding utility providers, I've been in constant contact with Florida utility providers. They're already working on staging and asset allocation so they can return power as quickly as possible following the storm. They're actively pre-positioning resources throughout the state and in neighboring states. We know from previous storms how incredibly important it is for power to be restored quickly. I will be talking with the utilities often throughout the day, and I've urged county and city officials, including sheriffs and police chiefs, to reach out to their utility providers so we can all work together in response to Irma. Regarding shelters, if you're evacuating from the Keys, you can shelter at Florida International University. We're working hand in hand with the counties to ensure that shelters are available for other communities who may need to evacuate. There's absolutely no reason for anyone not to evacuate if you're ordered to do so. Shelters will be available, and you should follow the directions of your local officials to go to the shelter that fits your needs. Families can go to www.floridadisaster.org/information or -info to learn where shelters are in your area. The state is staging supplies such as meals, shelter support trailers, and water. The State Logistic Resource Center in Central Florida for deployment as needed. We will be pre-positioning these goods once we have a better understanding of the path of the storm. The state is also establishing local points of contact with volunteer organizations to coordinate sheltering and feeding operations. The American Red Cross has also established a disaster relief operation in Orlando. Last night I spoke with U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price, who told me that HHS has disaster medical assistance teams en route to Florida. These rapid response teams aid in the provision of medical care to those who need it after the storm. The Florida Department of Education is in contact with school districts, state colleges, and universities. They will be receiving updates before, during, and after the storm. To find out if your local school district is closing, please visit Florida Department of Education website at www.fldoe.org. At this time, all school districts and colleges are monitoring Irma and her path. For any questions on school closures, please call your superintendent. Lake Okeechobee. I've been in touch with the South Florida Water Management District and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to discuss Lake Okeechobee water levels and the Herbert Dike. I will be speaking with them again later today. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the South Florida Water Management District have begun lowering the water levels in Lake Okeechobee as well as the surrounding canals and moving as much water as possible to tide and south through flood control structures throughout its flood control system in preparation for the storm. Routine inspections of the Herbert Dike are taking place, and additional inspections will begin once the lake approaches 17 feet. The lake level right now is 13.68 feet. We've seen reports on the news of grocery stores being out of water. Members of the media, we ask that you partner with us to identify areas of need and report any confirmed shortages to the State Emergency Operations Center by calling 850-921-0217. If you'll call, we will work with our retailers to get to make sure they're getting the supplies back as quickly as possible. Yesterday, I signed a state of emergency and rescinded all weight and driver restrictions for highways. This allows us to get all the resources we need into our state. This includes bottled water and non-perishable foods. While retailers are working as quickly as possible to fill grocery shelves with water and other emergency resources, we ask that you prepare. But as you prepare, be considerate of your neighbors. Take what you need, but only what you need. We have been in touch with retailers, and more supplies are on the way. If you visited the store yesterday and found a shortage, you should go back today to get your supplies once everything has been replenished. Fuel availability. The state is monitoring fuel assistance requests and has contacted emergency fuel and equipment providers for status of emergency fuel supply and equipment. We're moving as much fuel through the system as fast as possible. And our waivers on truck weight restrictions and driver hours are helping move fuel so we can get it to you quickly. While the state is working as quickly as possible to bring fuel to communities, again, be considerate of your neighbors. Take what you need to evacuate. Don't take extra. State offices in Maroon County are closed today until further notice. State office closures in other counties will follow the direction of county officials and will be announced as they are determined. I've directed state offices in 67 counties to be closed on Friday. We now need volunteers. That's what our biggest need is right now. I encourage all Floridians that can volunteer to do so to help prepare and respond to this storm. Floridians can go to www.volunteerflorida.org to sign up for volunteer opportunities. Volunteers make a huge difference in these emergencies and help with shelters, food distribution, and response efforts. Your efforts can make the difference a family needs to get through this storm. In Florida, we prepare for potential storms all year, and Irma is no different. Every family needs to have a plan, have a disaster preparedness kit, and be ready today. Do not sit and wait. Prepare right now. Don't watch the path. Assume right now it's going to impact the entire state. For details on how to create a personalized plan, visit www.floridadisaster.org/getaplan. If you need to fill your prescriptions, do it today. You can fill them early at your local pharmacy so you're prepared. We are working closely with our federal and local partners to make sure our communities have all the resources they need. Yesterday, President Trump approved my request to declare a pre-landfall emergency for the entire state of Florida, which freed up much-needed federal funding and assistance as we prepare for Irma. We are 100% focused on making sure Floridians and visitors have timely information on this storm, and we will continue to closely monitor Hurricane Irma and issue updates throughout the next few days. But I cannot stress this enough. Get prepared. This is your responsibility. Know your evacuation zone. Listen to your locals. This storm has the potential to devastate our state, and you have to take this very seriously. Now, I've gone through a variety of tragedies. We went through Andrew. I had hospitals that we evacuated. We evacuated a hospital south because we thought the storm was going to go one path. It moved directly, hit that hospital. It was devastated. All the windows blown in. We had to hand vet patients for hours. So understand that even though we've seen the latest path that moves it a little bit further to the east, this thing can still go anywhere. There's still a great chance it's going to go up the west coast and even to the panhandle. So the entire state needs to be prepared. I'm glad to take any questions anybody has.
Governor, is there any specific plan to get fuel here into the Keys? Because we've noticed shortages all along the area here.
Absolutely. We are calling the suppliers. We are working with Highway Patrol. We're doing everything we can to get fuel here. We believe we're going to continue to bring fuel anywhere around the state. I talked to a mayor this morning up in Broward that they said some of their stations didn't have fuel, and we're doing the exact same thing there. We're doing it everywhere where we have any fuel shortages. If you know of any, make sure you're letting the State Emergency Operations Team know, and we'll do everything we can to get the fuel here.
Do they have escorts with police? I saw
we do.
flashing lights.
We're doing everything we can. Highway Patrol's helping everything we can to get the fuel down.
How long do you anticipate bringing in those supplies?
We'll do it as long as we can. We'll continue bringing supplies as long as we can. But we've got to know, I know the retailers want to do their job, but if you let us know, then we can help the retailers make sure they have the information.
Is there a concern that as people try to leave the Keys, try to leave Miami-Dade County, you're going to see a serious traffic issue, kind of like Houston saw years ago during Rita?
Here's okay. If you listen to the evacuation orders are going to be given in a timely manner so people have time to evacuate. But if you wait, that's where the problem's going to happen. Whether it's Highway Patrol, FDLE, local law enforcement, DOT, we're going to try to keep all these evacuation rates open. But if you hear something, you got to tell us, but we're going to keep doing it.
Governor, how do you reiterate the seriousness of this? Some Floridians tend to, we see hurricanes enough, they don't take it seriously necessarily. You brought up Hurricane Andrew. That's something that people remember. How do you reiterate how serious this can be?
Well, let's think about Andrew. Andrew, in my case, I had 500 employees without homes. But here's what we didn't have in Andrew. We didn't have this amount of wind. Andrew was not as big as this is. This is 185-mile-an-hour winds, and they're tracking even higher than it sometimes. It's this has the potential for significant storm surge. We didn't have that in Andrew. If you remember last year in Irma, and fortunately it happened in an area where there were citizens, but not like in a major area. We had 10 feet of storm surge. I mean, that devastated. I mean, it goes in for miles. So you've got to. We have a plan in every community for if we're going to have storm surge, how far the water's going to go, and that's how they're making their evacuation orders. Listen to them. I have a daughter in Naples, and she lives inland a little bit, but she's listening. She's calling me all the time, asking me, and so I'm saying make sure you listen to your locals. But we have a plan. The whole state does, and so you got to listen.
If the storm does travel northward, it'll constantly affect the state. So even after it passes South Florida, is there a concern that after the rain has stopped, even the storms close up to the Jacksonville area, of getting supplies down this way?
We're going to do everything. You're always worried about everything, and so you worry about what's going to happen to bridges. You worry about what's going to happen to our roads. You worry about all these things, and so what you have is you plan what you're going to do to respond to it. So we are pre-positioning assets to the extent we can, and we'll move it south as fast as we can. But you got to be careful because not knowing exactly where this thing's going to go. But if you remember Matthew last year, it scraped the coast. But at any moment, I mean, it was only 20 miles off our coast. It could have come in and it completely scraped the coast, and it was not as big as this. This is way bigger. This is the potential for way more storm surge than Matthew had, and Irma was never this big, and Andrew was never this big.
We've got time for one more.
Okay.
What about plans for traffic flow on the overseas highway in the coming days?
Well, right now, if you look, the roads are open. You can get out. So if people are listening to their evacuation orders, that's not going to be an issue. We're going to do everything we can to keep the evacuation routes open. We've got whether it's the National Guard or Highway Patrol, they're all going to keep doing it. So we'll deal with the issues as they come up, but our goal is to make sure, because it's more efficient, is to keep it going both ways, because then if we have emergency vehicles have to get down here, then that slows that down. All right. Thanks everybody.